Hey guys, welcome back to Metroid Other M. We're on part 5, and we're about to face, that giant worm from before that Samus probably gave no fucks about. Actually, yeah, I was thinking about this after the part we just recorded, Jordan, but you mentioned that it was something about the franchise as a whole, but thinking about it, I wonder if this is why Nintendo's afraid to take another leap with Metroid, and why they're doing something. I don't know if safe is the right word to call Federation Force, but I mean, I don't know if you guys have seen the video
I mean, it's just
on
like
YouTube.
Federation Force is like not what anyone wants from a Metroid thing, but like maybe it's really good on its own merits. I have no idea.
I actually don't know why everybody is giving so much flack to Federation Force, because I mean, like, if it expands the Metroid universe, fine. If it has absolutely nothing to do with Other M, all the more power to them. But like the thing is, though, it's not like the Federation Force is like some random spin-off. I mean, we've known the Federation to be like a huge part in the Metroid universe. They had a bunch of cameos and moments, especially in Metroid Prime 3, and also in this game. So I mean, like, it makes sense that they would try that. Though the only thing that kind of bothers me is that in the marketing material, they're like, in the Metroid Prime universe, which of course ties into that doesn't look healthy. That ties into the fact that Sakamoto's like, oh no, Metroid Prime didn't never happened, which honestly screw him for that. A Samus sandwich. But like, the thing is, I don't know. I just kind of find it weird that there's still saying Metroid Prime is either separate or not canon or something, whatever they're trying to go with it. Because I would rather them say that Metroid Other M never happened.
I mean, Metroid Prime it can be considered its own like self-contained story, like that trilogy. But like, there have been enough fan discussions and everything going on that does make it a logical fit for the overall mythos behind Samus and the Metroid series as a whole. So yeah, I think it fits.
Nintendo's been like so wishy-washy about canons of their games, like with all the Zelda stuff. It's like you may as well just not worry about it and take whatever canon you like and choose that one.
I mean,
especially if it's in game form.
Like, yeah, it's like it's not a big deal. It's.
I would if Metroid was like basically wasn't like the only franchise that they had that was really, really reliant on its canon.
Yeah, I mean, Zelda you can get away with because like everyone knows the Hero of Time can exist like in every single era, in underwater, on a train, in space, which I hope they do at some point. But yeah, with Metroid, I agree with you. There's a little more lore to it, and I think the game that really drove that home was Prime, actually. Like, you could really get in.
There's definitely lore, but it's not really like that complicated. There's stuff that happens, but Wikipedia exists. Like, I agree that, like, obviously these games are a little bit more story reliant than any of the other games, like in terms of knowing this canon a little bit, but it's all pretty basic.
Not necessarily. Like, I mean,
it's not like super dense. Like I'm playing like Dragon Age right now, and like that's dense lore. There's a lot of it, Metroid is like not so bad by comparison. I think you can play a Metroid game and not really pay attention to the plot, other than this one, I guess, because this one has a lot of like really long cutscenes. But and you're not really going to be missing much. Most of those games will tell a complete story in their own right, and the seeing the hints of like the wider canon is almost like an Easter egg,
I guess.
Interesting that you put it like that. Because with Prime, particularly the first game, you don't necessarily need to, like, you can ignore all the lore throughout the game. You don't need to scan a damn thing, and you could beat the game.
Actually, no. You have to scan some things.
Some things, but like not enough to like piece a story together. But for those who really do want to, understand the lore behind Talon 4, and actually in turn get a bit more of Samus's backstory, with the Chozo and everyone. Like you can get that, and it does a good job of explaining it, but not like shoving it in your face. Like even if you do scan all of the lores that you need to, you still have to sort of put things together from your perspective. Yeah,
and I actually like it because it takes sort of an approach that I think Pokemon does, whereas like Pokemon it can be as the battle system and even like the Pokemon lore and all like the discovery and stuff, it can be as dense or as thin as you really want it to be. Yeah. And the Metroid Prime series, like the scanning does all the lore for you, so you can look into it if you really, really want to, or you can just like enjoy the ride and just have the basics.
Yeah, or you can just play it as a shooter. Like it's like the.
Well, you can't really play as a shooter. I wouldn't say you can.
Oh.
No, because it's an exploration game. You start shooting everything, you're not really going to get everywhere, and you have to scan. You do have to scan in order to understand some things.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would call that game a shooter mistakenly because like you have a gun and it's in a first person. But it's really no more of a shooter than any of the other Metroid games are.
Yeah, it's a first-person shooter perspective, but it's not a shooter because I remember playing like the first Metroid Prime, and I was just like thinking like I could just shoot everything like any other FPS. No, I got absolutely nowhere.
It's just the shooting isn't a point, right? It's just a navigational tool almost.
Yeah, it's how you solve problems.
Yeah,
and figure out things. But
oh well, I thought you missed that jump, and then I realized it was actually carefully planned.
Oh well,
just as planned.
Just as planned. It all comes down to the test plays.
Right, of course.
Oh, actually, I did miss that jump.
Really? Oh,
I'm like, play it off cool. Well, play it off cool, but like I can't play
it worked.
I could kind of tell.
This part.
Did it lock you into this?
It locked me into it.
What are you trying to do here?
How are you supposed to see that?
Oh, okay, so it locked you into first person, and you have to find a thing.
Wow, did nobody start looking at this for color? Oh, let's see the brown thing in the middle of all the other brown things.
No, that was a fluke. I'm like, oh god. Like even after the test play, I'm like, wait, which side was it on? Here we have our first, I believe our first official. Well, no, that big purple thing with the eye that was straight out of Monsters Incorporated was the first boss, but this is the second boss, the Wasp Queen. And this is where I wish you could actually scan, because I think it'd be cool to get a little more, if not hints, just get a little more information on the boss itself, its origins or something. Just give it a little more character depth. That's what makes the bosses in the Prime series so memorable. You get to scan them and learn about them. But
it'll tell you their biology, and they don't like this, they don't like that. Oh, okay, I better use this weapon. And so that was what I loved about Prime, especially because it made the world feel so alive. The one thing I love the Prime series for in Metroid is that it feels like one thing I kind of hate is when games make these elaborate environments that feel like if you were not there, this thing would never happen. But the thing I love about Prime is you feel this world exists regardless of you. So you could just not be there and everything would go exactly as it were.
As it is, yeah.
Yeah, the bottle ship is sort of the complete opposite of that because it's an artificial environment. That's kind of what I hate about it.
Well, that being said, all the doors that you have to go through in the Metroid series in general, with your beam or super missiles or missiles, not every research scientist on in Fusion was walking around with a super missile, I imagine. So how did they get through?
I'll give them a pass on that just for gameplay's sake. But but at the same time though, it does when there was when they did that, it's that sort of breaks it. I know that in game technology wise, they use it just as sort of a loading screen that you just can't notice,
which is very clever.
Which is very clever. But it just shows that oh, there was something actually living here, and that took absolutely no time whatsoever.
Oh, that boss? Yeah, it's so satisfying once you use the diffusion beam to your advantage and just clear all the enemies out. Actually, we got the diffusion beam in the last part. I should have mentioned that. When we defeated all the sentry bots at the end of the last part.
Beam?
The beam basically it just scatters your beam when you make contact with the enemy.
Look.
Oh, it's so cute. Oh god, that tongue.
Watching this disgusting beast, I felt as though it was feeding off my power as well.
Kill it
Why does
now.
she sound like a robot?
Kill it with fire. Is that like a honeycomb it's eating?
That howl
Yeah.
I heard earlier.
Samus has like a very robotic voice in this game that I did not notice before.
Oh god,
Yeah.
she's so all the voice acting is so stiff and phoned in. Yeah, a lot of this game is just a lot of missed opportunities. You know, like the voice acting it's realistic, but like it has no flavor. The music and the sound cues, like when you pick up a missile, there's no dun, 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 dun. Like it's just like that's an ugly sound. You don't feel like you're, I don't feel incentive to collect these things. I'm just gonna get that lame sound.
Well, I don't remember when we were talking about that. Like, I mean, you could just, think about missiles and they'll magically appear. So there's absolutely no point to collecting them.
Well, that's how I make my missiles. So I don't know about you, Jordan. Actually, oh, sorry. Go on.
If only money worked that way.
Yeah. Oh, what do you know? $100 bill? No, God. So this game introduces something new. Energy parts, and they work the same way like heart
tanks?
pieces. Yeah, well, sort of. They work the same way like heart pieces do in the Legend of Zelda series, where once you collect 4, then it upgrades your overall health points.
So is that what they do instead of you just like finding
An
energy
tank.
tanks?
There's energy parts, and then there's also full energy tanks.
Okay.
Full energy tanks are more like sort of like in your way, so you don't really miss them. The game sort of places them here as to let you know, okay, the next part of the game is going to get increasingly more difficult, so here's more health.
Right.
The energy parts, though, are more so that, for those who want to go out of their way, or for those who, need the extra health to increase their life.